Hi, I wanted to share with you this experiment that I'm doing with parents. I call it conscious parenting. My intent when I'm doing all these training is to support children, parents, adults to evolve. Why? Because that's the exploration I'm making internally, and when I share it, we create something like a collective experiment where we learn from each other. So the intent when I do work with parents is to support them to learn how they can support their children to evolve, not just to solve the problems of the current generation, not just to study well, not just to get a good job, but actually to evolve. That's my interest and that's what I'm sharing with them. So to evolve, one of the first things that is needed is what is your seed? What is your core aspiration? What is your core? So this has to be directly spotted, and much of theory is just steps. So the one of the things that I'm trying to work with parents and teach them is how can they spot the core of their children? And there's something very simple that helps: aspiration and desire. Desire comes from the mind, desire comes from the emotions, desires come from the senses. But the aspiration is something is like a spontaneous resonance. This can be detected pretty much from early childhood and gets really prominent beyond the third standard, fourth standard of the children today, because there is this process of individuation that's beginning early. The child or the student wants to find out who I am and what I really want to do. They could even rebel at that point of time, but it's a very healthy process. That's the discovery of, what is really resonating to me. Now this often gets mixed with desire, because that's the age where the senses are opening up, sexuality is opening up and all that stuff. But if parents learn to distinguish aspiration and desire both within themselves and in their children, the seed gets very clear, and this they have to keep observing directly. So much of this work that I'm experimenting with parents is keep this as the center, constantly observing it and feeding it and nurturing it. Now, to move forward, to fulfill oneself in terms of one's core, one has to understand that there's a lot of conditioning that has happened by that time, from the parents, from the grandparents, from the neighbors, from the teachers, etc., etc. So this work has to be done in collaboration with the students. It can't be like the parent says, do this. So the first part of our work that I'm trying to do is help parents to identify the core of their children. The second is help them, not just advise, help them to figure out how they can decondition themselves from all the programming that has gone in. So for example, right from the moment the child is born, even within the first 1 year, the programming for addiction is already being given. Addiction is a hook, which is what the current generation is really struggling with. But even within the first 1 year, the child is not eating, we put on the television, and the child gets hooked. The nature of addiction is hook. The child keeps the eye hooked on the television, the food goes into the mouth. So we have begun this programming. I mean, much of the children are already programmed, and the addiction formula is already given to them. So when they come of age, they naturally fall prey into it. So a lot of work needs to be done by the child in collaboration with the parents, so that they can redefine their body, their senses, their emotion, their mind, and learn to connect to the spirituality, not just religion. Spirituality, which is about intuition, which is about being calm, which is about being peaceful. So one needs to decondition and rebuild one's body, senses, etc., mind, etc., in a way that one can go towards one's core aspiration and really fulfill that in the world. This is an experiential work, and this is what I'm attempting in conscious parenting. It's a collaborative research experiment. I'm sharing what I know. I'm learning from people. So if you'd like to participate in this in some way, I'm doing these workshops in Chennai for the moment. So just wanted to share. Thank you.